Hi there, good morning. I realise I'm not quite in that deathly slot right before lunch on the second day, but it's close. So I'll endeavour to whet your appetite with some drainage chat, which is always lightens things up. I'm Glen Westmore, here from Surrey County Council. I'm also here wearing my other hat, which is the co-chair of the Association of Drainage Authorities. That's a member-led organisation, basically of all the lead local flood authorities, county and unitary authorities within England. We basically aim to promote SuDS, retrofitting SuDS, best practice, get all our members on board with delivering good SuDS across the country. I'm hoping most people know what sustainable drainage is. For those of you who don't, it's basically trying to create a new system of drainage which moves away from the traditional gully and pipe system. And much more a kind of holistic, sustainable approach, mimicking natural processes, reducing flow, reducing pollution, improving biodiversity, and improving amenity and place for people around it. How do we mainstream SuDS? Well, SuDS can be this, the big poster boys and girls, the green roofs, the really big projects, the really innovative, really exciting stuff. Most people aren't going to be delivering much of this in their careers. So really we actually need to go back to what sustainable drainage is on the day-to-day and the pragmatic approach. And it's highway ditches, it's filter drains, it's ponds and permeable paving. And really, better. Hopefully you can hear me now. Yes, so really it's kind of returning back to some of the techniques that we had when we had pretty good manpower in delivering drainage. And I always like to say, what have the Romans ever done for us? There's a drawing here. Drainage ditches have been in place for thousands of years. They work. So let's kind of try and marry some of that old technology with the new and really mainstream SuDS. There are legislative drivers for this. Planning is a really big one. The design manuals, obviously local guidance. There is legislation brewing around. Before the new government came in, we were expecting a consultation on SuDS approval bodies, which would sit alongside planning and basically approve surface water implications across the systems and possibly including highways. We're not quite sure where that's at. It's still sat there lurking, but it will be a very big driver in terms of pushing SuDS forward. But the really important stuff is the local drivers, actually areas of flood risk on the highway. We're speaking about the incidence of flooding and climate change. We all know that how bad flooding can be on the highway, not just for the traffic and health and safety, but also for the actual asset itself. There can be drivers from the biodiversity and the amenity side as well, whether that's within your organisation or outside, and piggybacking on other projects that need to be delivered. And one of the big aspects of that is around the water companies. Water companies have got a hard task in terms of trying to manage all of our water, but they're really trying to pick up on reducing the amount of surface water that goes into their systems because it just makes their job that much harder. And I'd be remiss without talking about some of the other things that are going on around the country. One of the biggest ones is in Mansfield, where Nottinghamshire and Mansfield are trying to help Severn Trent remove 58 million litres of water out of their system with over 20,000 interventions across the city. Absolutely huge project. I think that really shows the cost effectiveness of using SuDS on a large scale to try and solve a problem. And if a private water company is doing it, it's got to make sense. Across London, it's much more a coordination issue and using best practice. So they're using mapping, they're using pilot projects to really embed that, and using climate resilient schools as a real driver and for protecting the city. But they're also doing something interesting in terms of that dig once approach, and actually where they're looking to reinstate following utility works, for actually asking the question is, can we put SuDS in those spaces? You've already got a hole. Can we make it better? SuDS aren't just about flooding. And I'm in the unfortunate position to tell you that after CSOs and farmers, highway pollution outfalls are the next one in line for causing a problem in our rivers. Currently, that's goes pretty much under the radar, but I think the spotlight will turn on the industry fairly soon. And I think one of the other big drivers, as was mentioned, is climate change. I'm going to hear more about it in a second. And that's not just the increase in water that we're likely to see, but also the increase in heat. I know across Surrey we've seen quite a lot of melting road surfaces, and unsurprisingly, those are in places that there is no tree cover, there's no vegetation. So we're looking at actually using SuDS to kind of improve that as well. Thankfully, there are tools in place. There's research going on. I mentioned this one's Thames 21 road pollution mapping. Basically, they've overlaid road traffic data, major highways networks, and the outfalls to give you an idea of where the hotspots of pollution might be. And not only where they might be, but where actually you might have space to deliver something better. So that's really helpful. I've mentioned a lot about the wider industry, but what's happening in Surrey? Well, I like to be up here and say we're doing it everywhere, but we're really not. We've got it in some of our major projects. We've got it in lots of the planning projects that are coming through. We're adopting quite a lot of new highways. But on the day-to-day, on the really small schemes, the standard is still gullies and pipes. And there's a reason for that. All of our experience, all of the programs, all of the training, it's all aimed that direction. So we're working on pilot projects, we're working on standard designs to try and really embed SuDS as one of the first decision points to come in. And hopefully I can give you a little bit of insight about some of the things we found on that journey. The main thing is proportionality and doing the right thing at the right place. Yes, there's a place for roadside ditches, there's a place for really nice, pretty rain gardens, but also there is a place for gullies and a place for pipes. It's about choosing the right technology and perhaps combining the technologies to get the right outcome. And you need to consider those wider outcomes to the community as well as for the highway, because SuDS can really enhance places where you're looking to regenerate. You need to look at the whole lifetime costs, but also those whole lifetime benefits. One good thing about SuDS is they're on the surface, so you can see them, you can expand them, you can see when things are going wrong. But for me, the biggest sticking point in terms of putting SuDS in, and the thing I always come back against is maintenance. It's not because maintenance of SuDS is difficult. It's not. In fact, it's probably quite easy. It's that it's different, and our system isn't set up for it. If you can take a look at the gully behind us here, that's an innovative product that we've helped develop called a super gully. It's very deep, big precast concrete, got two things in there. Fantastic at taking water off the highway. It's very expensive to buy, it's very expensive to install, and you need a bit of kit to clear it out. 3 bits of expense, but it's much easier for me to justify one of those going in on the network than it is for me to put a rain garden in, which is a shallow depression with some grass in it. And the reason for that is we've got a bit of kit that knows how to clean that, and we've got a program of works directly targeted for that. And if you're unlucky, then you've got, for maintaining a SuDS, if you're unlucky, you've got multiple different programs that you might have to pick up: grass cutting, vegetation, litter picking. But if you're really, really unlucky, that might be across different departments too. And we all know how difficult it is to coordinate across different departments within councils. So you have to consider that maintenance, you have to consider access and the clarity of the tasks and defining what things happen where. Minimising the specialism is very helpful. One of the things that we've done that's been really helpful is having a separate lot in our contractor framework. So we've got some specialist guys who can install, but they can also go out and do once maintenance activity on there. So that's been really helpful in just driving things forward, to give them some certainty that we have got something in place to maintain this in future. In terms of the design considerations, yes, we're developing standard designs. There are lots of them out there in the industry, but you need the flexibility. We all know once you start digging next to the highway, particularly if you're looking to install something green over a large space, you're going to come up against some obstructions. And you really need to focus on what the outcomes you want from that are, because you're going to have flexibility. So your once design, as soon as you get on site, it's going to change. So you need to focus on what you're actually trying to achieve. And some SuDS are quite cheap to install. So doing full GI, doing lots of investigations might be more expensive than actually installing the thing. So it's about having that balance. And having those clear outcomes mean that if you have got a plan B in place and you've got experienced supervision on site and you've got really good comms, you can plan for what's going to happen and really deliver what the outcome's going to be, whether that's storage of water or infiltration, or just getting it off the highway as quickly as possible. And whatever you do put in place, you also need to consider that access, the maintenance regime that's going to be in place afterwards, but also exceedance. We all know that whatever you design, there's probably going to be a bigger rainfall event. One of the benefits of SuDS is that you can see the water, you can see where it's going to go. So think about, actually, if you made this bigger, where would it happen? What's the next event that's likely to impact that particular asset? So, in conclusion, I'm hoping I've convinced you that SuDS are going to be coming forward and we need to consider them. I want to leave with an example here that we've got a safety barrier on the raft system there. Ringwise, our contractor, identified this was going to be the right solution for a really busy dual carriageway where closure was a real pain in the neck. So we worked with them and said, well, actually, how are you going to drain that? Currently, it's a filter drain, which gets vegetation, which means road closures just to maintain it. So we picked up Hydro Rock, which is an innovative SuDS infiltration product. We've married the two together, and it's very swift installation, but also we know it's really swift repair as well. So that old and the new technology, bringing those two things together, is definitely the way forward. But I think that's probably my message, is really these things are coming, you need to embrace them. And I think the sooner you embrace that SuDS are likely to be something on the highway, the sooner you train your staff, the sooner people get used to using them and normalising them, the more likely you are to have kind of the greener infrastructure in place, and also there's not going to be a headache in terms of future maintenance. So hopefully that means that as we go forward, the highway's likely to be better drained, but also it's going to provide some greenery, some amenity, and some water quality provision for the communities as well.
Thank you very much.